You look at America today, in the last 40-50 years, there has been a huge transition of the economy. Today there is no American family in the cultural sense of the term. Of course, in the biological sense of the term, something is still there. 51% of the American families are headed by single parent, man or the woman, mostly woman. And 55% of the first marriages end in divorce, 67% of the second marriages end in divorce. If somebody still had some inclination for marriage, 73% of the third marriages end in divorce, according to the Science magazine, Psychology magazine. You know what has happened? Grossification of sensitive relationships, grossification of softness, masculinization of the society has led to such a chaotic situation. The family savings, which was 80% of the national savings in 1960 in America, in the third quarter of 2006, it became minus 20%. The entire savings of the people shifted to the corporates. Corporate savings was 20% in 1960. It became 120% in 2006 third quarter. All the money shifted to the corporates. The corporates destroyed the families. It is money that transformed the American society into atomized individualist society. Today, no son takes care of the father, no father takes care of the son. They are all independent of their father, mother, brother, sister, wife, son, daughter. They are all free from them, but they are dependent on the state. 51% of the American families are beneficiaries of the American state today. The social security and health security obligations of the American government, unfunded. There is not a single rupee in the coffers. But their unprovided for liabilities discounted to today's value is $104 trillion. Whereas the American GDP is struggling at $17 trillion. This is the transformation which has taken place in the relationships between people. There is no relationship. Everything is contract. With the neighbor it is contract, with the husband it is contract, with the wife it is contract, with the brother it is contract. An American son went in Philadelphia Supreme Court and got a divorce from the father, and the court granted it. This is a relationship which you want, you can acknowledge, otherwise you need not acknowledge. Why I am mentioning is anarchy. Social anarchy is promoted in the name of individual rights. It is promoted in the name of liberty. In those days, rights were always against the state. Right to freedom, right to speak, right to property, everything was against the state. The state cannot take away these rights. But today, these rights are asserted against father, mother, brother, daughter, son. A chaotic society. There is no society. If there is no society, there is no family. Today there are only 28% of the American families, husband and wife. Of course, they are husband and wife only for a particular time, are living together with children. With the 21% of the, in 21% of the families, husband and wife live together without children. The contract is not to have child. You know why this happened? Unless you understand why it happened, you will not be able to understand what we should be doing. In our entire civilization, we don't have anything called rights. We have only a convergence of rights and duties. There is no right without a duty. Your right depends upon your duty. This has sustained the civilization for thousands of years. And in 1991-92, when we were fighting against globalization, liberalization of the kind that was going on elsewhere in the world, particularly in America, because we always carbon copy America, because we benchmark America. I have nothing against America. Yet there are areas where I admire the Americans, but it is not that when you admire you should be like them. You can admire a person, not be like him also. When we were fighting, we said only one thing: there is no country which has the capacity to develop India. If there is anything which can develop India, it is only the Indians. We said your foreign investment or foreign trade can only be a contributory, it can only be an additive. The core development process has to come from within India. When we were going about saying this, we didn't say it just like that. We traveled across the country from Ludhiana to Batala to Rajkot, Jamnagar to Morbi, right down to Thoothukudi. I personally went to about 40 to 45 industrial clusters along with my colleagues, and Professor Kanagasa Babati has even written a book on all our experience. Our entire understanding about the Indian society changed. How we have an inherent capacity, competence, power, energy, which is yet to unfold because yet to be recognized, yet to be felt, yet to be articulated, yet to be felt. Once we went to Morbi, we were stunned. A town of 2.5 lakhs people, 1.2 lakh people are employed. Have you ever seen 50% of the population employed? That is the place with the highest per capita income in India. It's not Bombay, it's not Chennai, it's not Calcutta, it's not Delhi. It is Morbi, which has the highest per capita income in India. They manufacture Ajanta wall clock. We were stunned. You go to Ludhiana, you see the prosperity there. And we found ultimately all this is driven by artisan community, which has nothing to do with IIT or IIM or anywhere. You go to Tirupur, 67% of the Tirupur entrepreneurs are educated less than 10th standard, but their affairs are managed by chartered accountants, lawyers, IIT, IIM, they employ them. How many people have studied Karur? A place now has about 10 lakh population. The population was about 4 lakhs when they got up two huge banks, Karur Vaisya Bank and Lakshmi Vilas Bank. How did a small place generate two banks? This is a place for study. No management institute did it. No IIT did it. No government research organization did it. How is it that a society produced two large banks in just a place of 4 lakh population? We don't look at India. We don't know India. We don't want to know India. It is my travel across the country, my empirical study of the society, my familiarity with the corporate sector, my interaction with foreign investors in the course of my corporate advisory, I found there are two distinct paradigms operating in India, and the paradigm alien to India is dominating the Indian discourse. Unless you understand this, high-end educational institutions are so important. That's where I am going to relate to you my experience at IIT Bombay. IIT Bombay, they invited me in the year 2010 December. And ahead of me, Adi Godrej spoke. And the substance of his speech was this. It's all available on YouTube. You can have a look at it. Godrej said that we were always a country of superstition, illiteracy, poverty, hunger. We never knew prosperity. We always worshipped poverty. And so only from 1990s, thanks to this liberalization, globalization, now we are seeing poverty, standard of life, cars, computers, everything. In that IIT Shailendra Mehta's Management Institute, the entire audience of students, scholars, invited audience, they gave such a standing ovation to him when he completed his speech. I was to speak next. Of course, I had to be very civil to him. I told him that I have great regard for this group because this is one of the few ethical groups in India, which is a compliment which anybody, even their enemy, would pay. I paid that compliment and said I have to differ very seriously from. And he also said till 1994 we had only Hindu rate of growth. Does any one of you know here what is the origin of the word Hindu rate of growth? We all use it. No. Who said that? We all use it without knowing etymological origin of this. Then I explained to the audience. It took about an hour and 20 minutes. This speech is available on the net. I think you must, if you have time to waste, please waste your time on this speech.